first and foremost, you have to think of what a bucket list is. For two reasons. One is oftentimes it's goals in retirement for people. And I disagree with that. I think it should be goals in life.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Lisa Sakai. Lisa is a financial consultant who works with clients on bucket list acceleration, getting to live the life they want now. As the co-founder of One Vision Retirement, she has been working with clients across the country for over 12 years. Lisa's advice provides easy to understand baby steps that people can take action on right away. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Lisa. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Dwight. I'm really excited. This is going to be fun.
Yes, our pre-conversation was amazing, and
Yeah.
I imagine we're going to elevate it even more for this. So I look forward to
Sure.
this. So Lisa, one of the things I focus on is a person's origin story. For those new to the show, listening or watching on YouTube, bottom line, a person's origin is so key to where they are now. And our origin is your earliest recollections up to where you are today. So you can share whatever you want. You can be vulnerable as much as you want, or you can just start from just pick a point and start. But
Sure.
I find that earlier we start and go back and share with people, the more they get to know, like, and trust you and build a rapport as they're listening to our conversation. So
no, I totally agree.
Appreciate that. So please tell me your origin story and the key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently.
Sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. I live in Arizona now, but I grew up there. So a lot of us, aspiring Hollywood people wanting to do something in Hollywood. And I was obsessed with reading screenplays and watching old movies. I still love watching old movies, but just obsessed with the movie industry. I mean, I knew every single movie that was nominated for Oscars and all that stuff. And I was really into it. I went to school in Ohio, of all places. Is actually a college that Paul Newman went to. He didn't graduate from it, but so it's well known for their theater and their creative writing programs and English lit programs, which was kind of what I thought I wanted to do. And then I came back, I lived at home and decided to get into the industry. And I kind of started on the talent side. So I was helping with helping people get acting jobs and that kind of stuff, and pitching actors on the phone. And it wasn't really my world. I don't do that very well. But I enjoyed it. I got to meet a lot of really interesting people. And I actually, one of my clients that I brought on that I met is starring in a movie now. And it's kind of exciting to see the journey he's been on, and a couple of other people. So it's kind of cool. And then I moved to a bigger agency because I thought, oh, well, it's a small talent agency that I don't like it. Let's move to the bigger agency. And I hated that. It was kind of my taste of corporate, and I really did not enjoy doing that. I've never been so bored in my life. And I remember waking up every day and just dreading going to work. And I just thought, I can't live. I mean, at that point, I think I was 23, 24. That's not a way to live your life at 23 or 24. I mean, I just didn't want to live like that anymore. So I moved into production, which was more interesting. I got to read some scripts and help them figure out if they wanted to greenlight projects, which they often would not listen to me and greenlight they thought was going to make money more than things that followed values of some kind. But I did work for a very nice man, and he's a very well-known producer. And I remember thinking that I was, I was doing good work, but being a little dissatisfied still. And he was one of these guys, always asked very nice with a smile, but I had to get his car detailed and washed about 4 times a week because he's obsessed with having a clean car. And so I'm sitting there, and this is kind of before we had our, our iPhone that we could take out and just scan. So I had to sit there and actually think, which we don't do more. And so I was sitting there thinking, and I was like, what do I want? Am I happy with what's going on? And I realized that the disconnect that I was having was actually that I wasn't serving anybody. I was willing to work, 50, 60-hour weeks, but I wasn't helping anybody. I felt like I said, projects were getting greenlit that I thought were kind of immoral. And how am I helping people? Really? How am I personally affecting people? And I thought, if I'm going to work this hard and be this driven, I want to help people. And I went in and quit. And I got an offer to interview for being Jerry Bruckheimer's assistant. And I asked a couple of key questions, and I decided to turn down that opportunity. I really that was not what I wanted to do. And so I moved into the complete opposite, which was being a school teacher. and I started being a teaching assistant and all that stuff. And I moved up and got my credential. I went over and spent a year teaching in Japan because I'm half Japanese. So Sakai is my maiden last name, not my husband's last name. So I spent a year over there getting to know my culture, learning how to teaching to in a foreign country makes you a much better teacher because you can't just rely on words with them. You have to really build the connection and trust with them because their language is very vulnerable. And so the kids would be more open with me than other teachers would. And then I moved back, and 2008 hit, and I started I wasn't a tenured teacher at that point. So in America, we had what they call pink slipping in teachers. So they basically would hire you and then fire you and then hire you back right before the school year started because they wanted to keep you at a lower salary, essentially. And then I was doing substituting, but it was substituting for like 6 months. And then I would get pink slipped because I was a substitute teacher. And it was just not what I wanted. And I was seeing that. It was funny. I was just talking to one of my neighbors about this too, because she was a teacher who quit right during COVID because she couldn't stand doing it anymore, the teaching online and everything, which was there is a subset of teachers that are there to really enhance the kids, teach them, help them grow as people, as well as the education. And there is a handful of teachers who could care less about doing that. They're just trying to get through the day and give worksheets and that kind of thing. And then there's a bunch in the middle that just don't really care that much. They don't give a heck. They don't care. And I was of the subset of like trying to really enhance these kids' lives, I realized that was the biggest part of that kid's day and that we had a huge influence on them. But the problem was in a year, they'd go off to the next classroom and they might get put in one of these teachers' classrooms that don't care. And everything that I did almost deflated the kids because they saw what was good and then it was taken away from them. And it was really hard to watch that kind of stuff happening. And so I just kind of decided, I'm not happy with the internal politics of things. I got told not to tell kids to, read questions ahead of time when they're taking a test. stuff that adults do. Like I got pulled into the principal's office because they were taking a reading test, and I was telling them, read the questions first and then read the story so that you know what you're looking for. And I got told that that was not the right way to do this.
Sounds
It's
like a
just
logical way to me.
that's what adults would do, but we can't teach the kids to do that. It was just unbelievable. So I started, we had Monster and stuff like that back then. So I was looking on the online, and a lot of people in the insurance world loved teachers because we can explain things in a very, very easy way for people to understand. We just have the communication skills. And so I kind of applied, and I thought, okay, I can sell insurance. I don't know anything about this. And it's funny because I, at that point, was very insecure with my education in finance. I didn't have life insurance. I didn't understand life insurance. My husband had it, but I didn't understand why he had it. I didn't understand interest rates. I didn't really understand rates of return. I didn't know how the stock market worked. I mean, I was coming from zero in understanding of finance. My basic knowledge was you make a certain amount and you spend less than that, and it goes in your bank account. That's my level of finance I was at. And I was making decisions that were based out of fear a lot of times. Like we would talk about, should we move some money out of the bank account into something that got a better interest rate? And I would think, I don't know what my husband's talking about. And it would make me fearful. And so I tell him just to leave it, and so I finance was that kind of Achilles heel for me. I was embarrassed on how much I didn't understand. I was well educated, went to private schools. I went to, and so I still didn't understand this stuff. And so I don't know what compelled me to go into this world, but I was like, I guess I could do it. And so I started in the insurance world, and you probably know, because most of us start in the insurance only side, and then you kind of move into doing more holistic planning and that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there in trainings for like annuities and, all these specialized products. The indexed life insurance was kind of being the new thing that was you're supposed to do back then, and all this stuff. I'm sitting there and they're talking about like guaranteed riders. And I was like, what the heck are we talking about? Like, I don't understand any of this, but I kept taking my notes and going, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about. And they're talking about all these fees. I'm like, I don't understand any of this, but I'll just keep writing. And I would say probably about 3 or 4 months, it started to kind of seep in how it worked and how things were going. And I remember one lady in particular was talking about trusts. I'd never heard of a trust. I had no idea what they were. And so she gave me a little bit of information, and I went back and I did some research, and I called my dad and I said, do you have a trust? And he said, that's for rich people. And I kind of went through like, no, I think because you own a home and because you have some cash and stuff, like, I think you're supposed to have one of these. Like, you're supposed to have directives, I think. And like, let's talk about this. Let's go through it more. And a month later, I'm sitting in the estate planning attorney's office with them, getting their trust done. And my dad, who was always the person that I thought knew the most about finance, I was actually able to teach him something. And now he drives me crazy because he asks me questions about the trust all the time. I'm like, but it's okay. It's okay. It's good. I'd rather him ask than not. So, anyhow, so that's kind of my journey into that. And I finally realized that it really is about, I just need to know enough and care. That was the key. Like, I've always been very conscientious that I didn't have a financial background, that I'm starting a little farther behind than other people who have been in the industry for 13 years. Like, but I understand that if I don't know the answer, I know I don't know the answer, and I go get it from reliable sources, and I get a couple of those. And the other thing is that caring about people is going to take me much farther than just having book knowledge on how like a price and, PE or ratio works and all this stuff. Like, that's not what moves the needle for clients. What moves the needle is you care You ask questions and you're willing to get the information that they need so that they can make a decision about their stuff. So that's a very long-winded answer, but that's my journey into
I
financial planning as a
I
whole.
I loved it. It's fantastic, your whole
Thank you.
journey. Yeah, there's so many little notes that I wrote down here. I'd read on, I think it was your website, that you had a little story on there about the combo with your husband where he came to you
Yeah.
and you said, I don't know, and he walked away continuing the same financial path. That happens
Yeah.
all the time. I'll sit down with couples and one or the other, it's never gender based.
Mm-mm.
He does it all. She does it all. I don't care. Why don't you care? Because it just gets me frustrated. Well,
Mm-hmm.
just like you, it's like you don't know what you don't know. Our education system in North America, really, the world has failed, and it's getting better. But it really, for generations that are older, it failed them because it didn't teach them the rules of the money game. It didn't
Yeah.
teach them the basics of budgeting, goal setting, et cetera, et cetera. And I run into that all the time. But I like what you said, though. You got to know enough and you got to care. And there's so
Mm-hmm.
many people that don't know how to care about other people because their learned behavior as an advisor, whether it's insurance, finance, or both, has been taught to them knowingly or unknowingly by the people that surrounded them growing up, their
Yeah.
parents, their family, their uncle, their aunt, and most of them broker than broke, right? And they're
Yeah.
listening or hearing, picking up on conversations, and they bring that burden into their career because they still don't know. So they're book taught, as you mentioned. So what? You learned in a book, good for you. It doesn't mean you're going to be a good advisor. It doesn't mean you're going to be a compassionate, caring person. And I completely agree with what you said, though. Somebody asks, like, of my clients, or even, it doesn't matter what it is. I've taught my kids this since they were little, and I brought that into my career. And it was because of all the personal development work I've been doing now. This is my 30th year of consistently working on personal development, to be vulnerable and say, you know what? I think I know what the answer is, but I want to give you the straight goods. I want to give you the right facts. I need to do a little bit of research, and I'll come back to you with what
Mm-hmm.
you've asked me. You're not admitting that you're stupid. You're not admitting that you're
Yeah.
ignorant. You're not admitting any of that. You're just admitting that you're not going to, be a facade and just fake it.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to
Exactly.
actually be tenacious, which tenacity to me, I feel, is a superpower, right?
Me
That
too.
if a
Mm-hmm.
person isn't tenacious about getting the right results, like first, pardon me, right answers, and then getting the right results for anybody, even if it's just somebody, a friend, just not even asking you a finance question, just asking you, you know, what do you know about politics in whatever country? What do you know about
Yeah.
healthcare in our own country? Oh, you know what? I think I kind of know, but here's, or you can share even part knowledge and say, I think this is what it is, but I'm not sure. Let me get back to you. Sometimes it's best to say, I don't know. I'm going to find out and get back to you. Right. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. I
Yeah.
like the fact that you helped your dad with
Yeah.
the trust and then to go into the estate lawyer. I remember when I first got in this industry, I was sitting down with my dad, and I'm newly licensed. I'm doing within a year, I was doing insurance and investing, right?
Oh, wow.
And I was sitting down with him, and I said to him, I said, well, what do you got? And he was very, like, here's a little piecemeal. Here's what I got. My dad's a very successful he's retired now, he's in his 80s, but he is a very successful entrepreneur. And bottom line, he wasn't willing to share because, number one, I'm his kid. Right?
Yeah.
That's a pro and it's a con when it comes to doing finance for people, right? Wouldn't you agree? Right.
Yes.
So I basically sat him down and I said, my mom too. And I remember initially him saying, well, he'd be very hush hush. And over the years now, I've been their advisor for 21 years, taken over probably taken part of me over at least 80% of their stuff. And over the years, he'd say to me, well, my mom would be sitting there. She'd have that glassy eyes like a deer caught in a headlight. And I'd go,
My
Mom,
mom
this is,
too. Yeah.
this is what's going on, Mom. And Dad would go, oh, you don't need to tell her. Yes, I do need to explain it to her. because if she needs to have what's called peace of mind between her 6 inches between her ears, and too many people don't do that. And
Yeah.
she needs to understand. And I remember this must have been 10 years into them being my clients. And my mom, one time we were out shopping and with my dad and somebody else, and we were in Costco of all places. And they walked ahead, and my mom's walking beside me, and she's looking kind of disheveled. And, you know, I don't get it. I don't understand. I said, Mom, do you want to understand? Not really. I just want to know that I'm going to be okay. I said, well, I'm here. You're going to be okay. And she's
Yeah.
never felt fearful. She's told me that. She's never felt fearful since that conversation.
Oh,
She
that's
really doesn't
amazing.
care. So some people, doesn't matter how much we dial in, we can't convince the unwilling to learn something they
Yeah,
don't want to know. Sometimes just
exactly.
peace of mind is good enough. Knowing
Yeah.
that they have a coach or a mentor or somebody in their corner that they can come to. So, and I've had clients that say that to me too. I have a client that lost her husband quite a few years ago, and she says, I've never worried, ever. You were there for me through the journey of his passing. You were there through the journey of helping me understand what's going on, dealing with the lawyer, dealing with this, dealing with the government. She says, you were just very, very helpful. Right. And
Yeah.
that's what we all need. We need somebody that's in our corner, right?
Yeah.
Medical, financial,
Absolutely.
doesn't matter. So thank you so much
No.
for that story and
Yeah, absolutely.
sharing
No,
and
I
being
love
vulnerable.
that. You're right. And I think the thing is that I I agree, but I disagree a little bit when
Okay.
we talk about that people don't want to know and they want a peace of mind. I totally agree with that. I think it is our job a little bit as you get to know the clients and stuff to push them a little bit to find out why they don't want to have a better
Oh, of
understanding of
course.
things. Because
100%.
it always scares me that they've taken, like I work, I'm a female, so I work with a lot of females. And a lot of them are divorcees or something's happened where they've come into money and they transfer what they used to give to their husband to do now to me. And then they do the I trust you, just do whatever you think is right.
I don't like
And
that.
that always scares me because I'm like, okay, we're
Yeah.
just doing we're following the same habit we used to do. And so I really feel like it is my job a little bit to push them a bit so that they
100%.
have a basic understanding of things, but still peace of mind. But I kind of want them coming at me. I have one client, she does this probably at least twice a month as I get some message going, here's an article about how the world's going to fall apart. Can you give me your advice on this? And it's funny because I give her the same answer. I respond to what the article's about, but they're all about the fall, the sky's falling in, recession's going to ruin everything, that kind of thing. And I still say, based on our last conversation, if things haven't changed, I'm still probably going to tell you that we should stick it out where we're at. However, things have changed, if you want to have a conversation, let's do that. But it's funny, she said, I know you're going to say that, but it makes me feel more comfortable that you're still saying the same, that there's consistency, right? There's something about consistency that helps her through that time. So,
Well,
it's always
I
a push,
100%
right?
agree. And I'm the same way. But when it comes to my mom, it's adding,
Oh yeah, you can't
she's an
push too
anxious,
much.
she's an anxious person. And I got some of that anxiety too. So I understand it and
Mhm.
appreciate it. But yeah, I'll look at people and talk to them and have those tough conversations
Yeah.
as we were talking about husband and wife and this person takes care of it. Well, no,
Oh yeah.
you need to both have a conversation, especially when the clients that agree to do extensive budgeting with me, you need to be reviewing your budget, both of you together. Well, why do we need to do
Yes.
that? Why do I need to do that? She can do it or he can do it. Well, because what happens if something material changes and they just put it in, they pencil it in, but don't tell you, and then you go spend something you shouldn't spend, and now you put yourself behind the 8 ball. And like you said, now
Hmm.
you're back on that hamster wheel. You're just passing the buck. So you've
Yeah.
temporarily showed an interest, but not enough to stay engaged because anything worthwhile achieving in life still comes back to money. I don't
Yeah.
care what it is. It still comes back to you understanding that your numbers, that if you have $1 and you're spending $1.50 and you consistently do that, right? Or how many
Mhm.
clients have I dealt with over the years where one client's like of a couple, one's got a credit card and the other one didn't know, and it's racked up and they owe 15, 20 grand on it. I don't know if you've run into that, but I have.
Yes, I
Right?
have.
It's
Mhm.
just, or they get married and they didn't tell that person and they're brand new into their marriage and hey, we should do this, this, and that. Well, no, or they go to apply for something. One person's got bad credit because they've missed payments or they've got all this debt they didn't share their loved ones. And those of you that are listening, start out life being, financially responsible with, when I say start a life, start out a relationship, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's a partnership in business, whether it's a relationship with a significant other, start it out the right way. There's people like Lisa and I that are more than willing to explain to you and help you understand. Because if your relationship, no matter who it's with, even friends that think that you have something and you go do stuff with them and travel and you don't, and it's putting you in a financial bad spot, that's not a good place to be in life. Honesty rules, right? Just
Yeah,
be
I
honest and
totally
live
agree
your
with that.
most authentic self. So yes, I do
Mhm.
challenge people, just not
Yeah.
just not my mom.
Just not
I,
your mom. I
right.
get it. Yeah, I'm always challenging my mom a little bit because I want her to
And,
like
well,
to like
I
grow a little
challenge
bit, but I
I
totally get
challenge
that.
my mom enough to constantly remind her if she does show any anxiety about money, but she doesn't anymore. Like I said, she's recently
That's
told me
good.
she doesn't worry about it. Before, I just say to her, don't worry about it. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And if something
No,
happens and I'm not
exactly.
around, I've set you up for life. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about it. You're going to be
Oh,
fine.
that's
Right.
nice.
So,
Yeah, that's totally fine. I totally agree with that. Yeah, the authentic self is so important. Because I always talk to clients about how much money are we spending because other people want us to spend that money. And it's just people don't think about that at
no,
all. They don't
none.
think about how much money they're spending because my friend Donna wants to go to this new restaurant and I could care less about going to the new restaurant, but I want to see her. So therefore, I'm going to go and I'm going to spend $70 on some meal that I don't care about.
Yeah. And you haven't seen each other in a while. Let's get a bottle of
Yeah,
wine. And you're
exactly.
spending 35, 40. It's just like,
Oh, exactly. It
I
adds
get
up, and
it.
especially with inflation.
Peer
So it's
pressure.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people will do that kind of stuff, and it's just part of their norm. And I'm like, if you would just take back your power, you're kind of lying to Donna, right? Because you're acting like you really want to do this, but you really don't want to do this. You'd rather be at home with her on the couch having popcorn and a glass of wine or something than doing this fancy restaurant where I just, get my nails done and look a certain way before I went in. It's just funny because we think that we're going to, and I'm very guilty of this too. We think that we're going to avoid conflict or that we're being a good person by putting other people's needs or wants ahead of ours. But really, you're not showing your authentic self, right? And on
Exactly.
top of it, you're spending money in a way that is not, it's your money, and yet you're spending it for somebody else.
And usually Donna can't afford it either. And
Exactly.
Donna would love it if you say, "Hey, why don't we go and kick back on the couch and
Yeah.
I'll put on some music. We'll have a glass of wine. We'll have some popcorn, whatever, some snacks, and
Yeah.
we'll just
Snacks.
visit." Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you go out and how comfortable is that conversation in a restaurant with a bunch of
Oh, it's
chatter going
not.
around
Yeah.
and meanwhile in your brain you've been living a facade to your friend and they're living it back to you. You really can't afford that 60, $70. And then you go home going, oh, I should, I had fun with Donna, but yet I'm
Yeah.
broke. I
Yeah.
got more debt now to worry about. And
Yeah.
we just need to
Oh,
live
it's just
our
crazy.
authentic lives. So
I totally agree.
100%. So I want to, since you brought it up, I'm going to jump forward in what
Sure.
I wanted to talk about. Lisa, everyone has a bucket list, whether written
Yeah.
down or simply they have it in their head. I know you have developed a system to help people achieve their bucket list quicker. Can you
Mhm.
please share with my listeners what is the secret to accelerating one's bucket list?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, you have to think of what a bucket list is. For two reasons. One is oftentimes it's goals in retirement for people. And I disagree with that. I think it should be goals in life. and we will
100%.
figure out when we're doing that. A lot of times people will push off when they want to actually start enjoying their lives because they think that the rule is that you're supposed to wait until retirement. And I find that when you hit retirement, the clients that I've helped transition from working life to retirement, there's kind of three areas that can be hard for them. One is that they don't know who they are without work, right? Somebody says, "What do you do? You know, who are you?" And you say, "I'm a financial planner." Like that's what we have as our identity, which really that's not my identity. That's my work. That's my business. Yes, it's a passion of mine, but is that who I am? No, but that's what we put into place. Also, there's interaction there, and you go to every day being Saturday, you know, so you don't see all of your coworkers, you don't get challenged necessarily as much. It puts a big strain on yourself when you stop working. There's also the fear when that last paycheck comes of, oh my gosh, now how am I going to fund my life? And you have to take that mindset and shift to taking out of assets that you're so used to putting in and not having that worry. And what can happen is if you don't know who you are, you could spend a lot of money trying to figure that out on things you don't want. I was actually on a different podcast. I love this story, so I tell it all the time. She was the host was telling me that her friend, he said that he was gonna fly fish. This was his dream. He was going to go fly fishing in retirement. And she never questioned him like, have you ever gone before? She just kind of said, okay, that's fine. And he got the boat, he got the gear, he got the, you know, he did all this stuff, and he went and he hated it. And he did it a couple of times, and he says, I hate this. And so he spent a lot of money and a lot of time dreaming about something that he didn't like anymore. And so it's like, well, what? Now we've got to find the new passion, and we got to spend money trying to figure out what's going on. And so it can be a little disheartening with that kind of thing. And you can limit yourself on what you actually want to do because you haven't taken the time when you have an income coming in to take those little bit of steps to like just go fly fishing one weekend and see if you actually enjoy it or not. And so I think that happens. And it also can have some people locked down because when they don't have that income coming in, and let's say they retire at 65, and for America, you know, our full retirement age is typically around 67. So you might have 2 years that you have zero income coming in, zero any kind of thing coming in. So you do have to pull from your accounts. And it's like people sometimes lock down and they say, no, I'm not going to spend anything. I feel guilty. You know, they disassociate themselves with this hard-earned money that they have, or, you know, the market's bad. So therefore they're just not going to take anything because you don't take money out when the market's down, you know, whatever fallacy that happens. And I find that if we can just work on while they're working, putting together an actual bucket list plan that's completely, and I put this in quotes, selfish. Not because mom wants you to do it or not because your sister wants to do it. You want to do it. And couples can have their own, they can have one together. But if they decide, I have a couple couples that want to do their own bucket list, like each individual, because they have such different interests and they come together for their joint interests, but they have things they want to do. And essentially it's about getting some motivation built into your planning while you're working still. Because if you're sitting at age 30 and retirement is until 65, how motivated are you to save for your future? Not that motivated, because it's like, oh, I'll start tomorrow. Or if I start in a year, it's okay because I've still got, 34 years to do this. And instead of that, if we can build something more immediate in your planning as well. So maybe it's a trip to Greece. I keep telling this story because it makes the hair on my arms go up. This one lady was telling me she wanted to go to Greece. And I said, tell me about Greece. Like, what does it feel like? How are you doing? And she pauses and she goes, I want to walk on the same sidewalks that the great philosophers did. Oh, I love that. I mean, that is specific. She knows why she knows what that experience is going to feel like. It's unbelievable. And so if we can build that into her plan, let's say, and she's going to go to Greece in 2 years because we've figured out the cost and we figured out what she wants to do. And we've gone into the detail that needs to happen to really find her why, find her motivation, find all of that. Then you build that into your savings plan. So you're saving for the future and you're saving for your short-term goal, and you feel like you accomplished something, right? That your money is doing something that you want to do, and it's much sooner than 35 years from now. And it just builds this momentum up in people to go, what's next? What else are we going to do? And it keeps them motivated to keep saving for themselves in the future, as well as for these shorter term goals that makes them empowered and makes them really feel in control of their money.
Yeah, it's so true though, that people will say, well, what do you do? I said, well, I help people live better today, retire in comfort, and die with dignity. Well,
Yeah.
you don't just worry about people's retirement. Well, no, because you're living today. You don't even know if you're going to get a retirement. There's no promise for tomorrow. This might be the last time you and I talk. I don't know.
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
not live in the present of life and plan for those vacations, and plan for, whatever, get your kids education, and plan for all these little nuances. Well, I can't afford that. How do you know you can't afford it until we actually break it down and discuss it further? Let's talk about your vacation, like you're talking about, to the lady who wants to go to Greece. Let's talk about, oh, in retirement, do you want to have a boat? You want to do this and this and that? Is this, you currently have this stuff, correct? Like,
Yeah.
yes, I do. Well, okay, great. But you talk about the person with the fly fishing. You could have rented that experience, like you said,
Yeah.
right? And found out ahead of time.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of people that, like, I love how you put that though. Some people just get locked down in their thought process.
Yeah.
That is, I find, especially with clients that I get introduced to that are already retired, or they're like 2 years away from retirement, it's really bad because they've never been taught that they can have it all. They can have their cake and eat it too, but it's called planning. It's called let's do things. And I like your bucket list idea though. Like, that is something that I could see myself adding the wording and the process to what I do, which is I do specific goal setting, and the goal setting breaks down some of the things I want to accomplish, but getting them to do that bucket list plan that is selfish. I like that bucket list item
Yeah.
that is selfish. I think that's going to be the title of this podcast.
Thank you. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so powerful. So I appreciate you sharing that. One of the things though, too, I was curious, reading that you teach people about financial perfectionism. What is financial perfectionism?
I find now I work a lot with women, so I do see it a lot more in women, but I'm sure men have that. Actually, I was just on a presentation, a virtual presentation before this, where one of the men was talking about this as well. So I think in our heads, we think that there are rules to money. Like, there are things you're supposed to do and the things you're not supposed to do. Everybody is supposed to put money in their 401ks here in the US, and you're not supposed to be spending it on food or going out to eat or whatever it is. Like, the biggest one I get is when I talk about budget, they go, oh, we go out to eat too much, right? That's always first thing everybody says. And so we have these rules in our head that this is the right thing to do and this is the wrong thing to do. And that we have this idea that everybody else is getting it and we're suffering or we're struggling with it. And why am I struggling? And yet Patty over there can do it. Or like you said with Donna can go out and do all this stuff and she's amazing. How come I feel stress and Donna doesn't? Well, you don't know Donna doesn't feel stress going out to eat. You don't. Or maybe she's done her planning and that's one of her priorities in life. And so she's okay spending money there, but she doesn't spend money on shoes because she doesn't care about shoes. So you don't know where people are. And I always kind of talk about, and women will get this too, we walk into somebody's home when they invite us in and it's a scheduled thing, going over for wine or game night or something like that. And their house looks immaculate, right? Like everything's in place. There's not dust anywhere. And we're like, wow. And we think about our house and we're like, wow, she has it all put together and I'm a mess, right? we're not seeing that she took the last 2 hours trying to shove everything into the closet that wasn't supposed to be out and dusting the areas that she knew you were going to go into, but don't go into the master because that's got to be a mess. Like we don't see any of that stuff because it's all about what we're seeing on the outside that people are presenting. And that doesn't mean that they're being inauthentic or bad people. It just means that we kind of have this society that there's the right way to do things and the wrong way. You don't invite somebody in with a dusty, house with some kids' toys on the floor. I mean, that's not what you're supposed to do, so it's just kind of funny how we do this with money too. There's the right things to do and the wrong things to do. If I'm not perfect, then I'm failing and I'm a financial mess. I'm sure you hear people say this all the time. They come in, they have their stuff and they go, okay, well, we're kind of a mess when it comes to this, or they do some kind of version of a financial mess. And half the time I would say they're not a financial mess. We just need to tweak some things, or they just need to understand a couple of different aspects, or we just need to think about things in a different way. But we have this idea that our financial life is so messy and we're so behind the 8 ball and we're so bad at this and everybody else is doing perfect.
Yeah,
And that's what financial perfectionism really stems from.
that is a great way to, yeah, financial perfectionism. But it is so true though. How many people though do that comparison game, living a facade, right? So you walk into there, like I tell people all the time, and for those watching, you've seen me do this before. Here's your life. You open up the doors and you look inside, and people are shocked, right? They're looking, well, my friend has this and they do this and they do that, but yet that person, literally, if you were looking at them, they're treading water on a lake, and their mouth's just above the water, they're barely breathing, right? But yet they present something completely different. They're living a facade. And those people that are listening, when you live a facade so long, your responses and your reactions and your actions mimic who you present to people. And but what it does is it slowly eats you up inside. It leads to addictions, it leads to depression, it leads to anxiety, it leads to so many different things that if you peel back the layers of your life and live the real genuine you and not care if somebody comes in your house and sees some toys laying around or some dust or whatever the case, or saying, you know what, Donna, I can't go out and eat. I'm sorry. We have a plan in place thanks to Lisa, and we're saving for immediate, we're saving for midterm retirement, we're saving for our kids, we're saving for all this stuff, and that's just not in the cards. How about we hang out at the house and have a glass of wine and some popcorn? But the problem is we're so fearful of being judged and thinking, like I hear it all the time, even from family members, oh, such and such is doing this and they're so successful and such is doing that. And some of these people, they're going that such and such person I know, or they're my client. And I obviously can't say anything. I'm just going like, you don't get it.
I've had that too.
You don't get
absolutely.
It's not the fact. You don't have the facts. You're looking at the facade. Open up the doors.
Yeah.
Look at the people with big ass houses, Lisa.
Oh,
I've
yes.
had people go, oh, these people went and bought this big house and big that and big that, and I'll say, you know what? I bet you if you go open the door and go into their house, maybe a third of it's furnished, if they're lucky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're
No, I
house
totally agree
poor.
with that.
Well, they got two
Yeah.
cars. Yeah, they got two cars and two payments on a depreciating asset, and
It's so true. They're drowning. They can't keep $100
yeah.
in their bank account, but they've got
Oh,
this beautiful house.
yeah,
It's funny.
they're
Yeah.
so house poor, and it's just it actually breaks my heart when I go through, because when I'm doing the budget and then I do their net worth, and they look at me when we're done their net worth, and hopefully it's not negative and it's a little bit positive or a lot positive, and they'll go, how are we doing? Right? Because their opinion of themselves and how they're doing isn't enough. They need the opinion of others, the
No,
committee of they need society to label
I
them as a
totally
success,
agree.
right? And
I totally agree.
I'll look
The
at them and
tension in the room is palpable
oh,
during that, right? I
chainsaw.
describe it
You could
I
cut it with a
describe it
chainsaw.
as like, getting results from your blood work, right? It's that
Yeah.
same tension that's in the room about your net worth. It's hysterical. Oh, I totally agree with that.
Oh, it's and we're not making, and those listening or watching, I can empathize with you. I've
Oh,
been there. I didn't wake up one day, neither did Lisa. If you were
no.
listening to her story, if not, rewind and listen to it, or go to her website. Even better, she's got her story there. There's some great information you can get from her website, which I'll make sure at the end of the show we talk about. But bottom line, just live your genuine self. Learn if you're feeling any anxiety or depression about poor choices in the past. Remember, depression's in the past, anxiety is something that hasn't happened, you're worried about. There's people out there that can help you feel better.
Mhm.
There's people out there that can give you hope in a very short conversation, so that your situation might not change overnight, but moving forward on your path, you're going to be a little bit
Yeah.
happier because now you have faith, you have hope, you have something that you didn't have prior. And then
Yeah.
work with great people that are going to be compassionate, empathetic, but are also going to be tough, give tough love to you as well,
Yeah.
so that you do
Yeah.
change your your patterns, and get off that hamster wheel of life.
Totally agree. I think our job is, and it's funny because I've been in this industry for so long, but it's really the last year or two, I've really realized that our job is to remind people of what they want, right? Because they let so many outside influences happen. But if they sat down and they got really clear on they want this in life, they want to leave a legacy, they want to do, and it doesn't mean things can change, but my job is to remind them that this is what we talked about. And do we still want that? And are we still moving towards that? Or if we made a pivot for whatever reason? And I kind of feel like our job is to keep them a little selfish, quote unquote, with their money, because you work really hard for your money. I don't care if you're, making $20,000 a year or you're making $2 million a year. You work hard for your money. And we let so many outside influences. Dad told me to do this, my uncle told me to do this, my best friend told me to buy this stock, to do all this stuff. And it's just like, no, you need to focus on what it's going to do for you. You earn that dollar, either through work, through growth, through whatever you ended up using that dollar for. You need to use it for you. And
Uh,
I think we get away from that a lot. And I think that's our job, is to remind them of that a lot.
Absolutely. I've got clients I've sat down with that they're not hurting. They're not
Yeah.
wealthy, but they're not hurting either. They could, a couple vacations a year, they can certainly do things. And they're talking about what they want to leave to their kids. And before I start analyzing, their responses or the numbers, and we were working on stuff, they've been living a poor life. Though, well, we're not going to do that. We got to leave. We got to save that. We got to leave something to our kids. And I hear them out as to why, and I'll say, why do you feel that way? And we'll dissect their learned behavior,
Yeah.
and it usually comes from a family or somebody that's told them, you gotta save for what about your kids? How are they going to survive? And I'm not against saving for your kids, is for an estate plan, or to be able to help them when you're living, like with my 5 kids, being able to help them is important to me, but not at the sacrifice of me. At one time it was, not anymore. It's just an education process. Be selfish for yourself is such a great
Yeah.
statement. It's
Hmm.
okay for you, especially if you're retired, to spend some of that hard-earned money. Now,
Yes. Absolutely.
if you're young, guess what? If you plan it properly with somebody like Lisa and I, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a
Yeah.
great retirement, and you can have estate planning based on something called, ooh, don't shudder too hard, insurance. You can do
Yes.
permanent processes where I know with me, I'm gonna spend it, and when I pass away, insurance will take care of them, give them a nice
Yeah.
tax-free, estate
Exactly.
plan. But again, if you're too far into the age and you can't afford to do that, there's still other things.
Oh, there's
You never have to
tons.
feel like it's hopeless. Just
Yeah. It's
find out your
amazing when
choices.
you get pushed a little bit what you end up actually choosing. I work a lot. I have a specialization. It's not on the website yet because I've just kind of honed in on it, but I have a specialization working with women who don't have kids. And whether they're married, divorced, whatever the situation, single, still, it doesn't matter. I work with a lot of women who don't have kids because I don't have children. And it's funny because there's this perception that as women, we're supposed to leave our legacy to our nieces and nephews, to our family, right? That's what we do. And it's funny because even in our firm, I was talking to our estate planning specialist. He's a wonderful guy, but he at first said, Lisa, people want to leave money to their families. I said, you're talking to somebody who doesn't. Not that I don't love my family, but I want to do something different. I want to make an impact. I might want to do a charity. I might want to do. And when you open that world up for people and say, is there charitable planning you want to do? Is there an impact you want to make? Do you want to, bounce that last check? Do you want to, if you get people dreaming, it doesn't mean you don't want to leave things for your kids or for your family, but a lot of times it gets you thinking about all the different things you can do with your money that would make you tremendously happy and fulfilled in life. And I think we forget that a lot because we're so busy trying to wait and do the thing that everybody thinks that you're supposed to do. And unfortunately, that's kind of the old school way of doing it with planning, right? What are we leaving for the kids? We're leaving the house, we're doing the
Yeah.
whole 9 yard. And my question is, what are we doing for you? And then if there's anything left over, what are we leaving for the kids?
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. Even my own parents, like, can't spend that. My dad will say, I say, why?
Yeah.
We got to leave it to you guys. No, spend it. Even my sisters have gotten to a
Me
point, I'm
too.
telling them, just spend it. Like, whatever. If there's something, great. If there's not, it means you left left the best life you could possibly based on what you have. And so many
Exactly.
people just put so much pressure on themselves,
They do. They
right?
do.
So, Lisa, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
I think the biggest thing that I have realized through this journey is how we think. And it's funny because I've got a podcast or a blog coming out. It's not up yet, but a blog coming out on this. We think of money as something logical and linear, and like money and math, they go together and that kind of thing. But once you really realize that money is emotional and it has frequency and it has energy associated with it, and it has guilt and it has joy and it has all of the emotions attached to it, I think that opens up a whole new world, because then you don't judge yourself for being joyful on something or being angry about something else. You understand that money isn't logical. A lot of the times it's very emotional. And I think you can really take a lot of ownership of your money if you are understanding of that. And you're saying, okay, this is the emotion that I'm feeling with this when I use money this way or this way. And I think that if you can kind of get that, start recognizing that pattern of how you emotionally react to certain circumstances with your money, it's going to open up a whole new world. I always say that clarity and awareness about your money equals to financial independence. You can get to financial independence without those, but it's a lot harder journey. If you get clarity and awareness, it's really hard not to get to financial independence down the line.
Yeah, it's a great closing message. I say this to people a lot about the fact that money really itself, you attach the emotion to the money, because money's got no logic or emotion. It's wielded by the person that has it, and they decide, are you going to let money grip you emotionally and hold you hostage, captive, or are you going to really learn about the rules? Are you going to learn about the fact of how you can control how money makes you feel? Go back to Donna. Go back to that circumstance of spending the $70.
Apologies for anybody who's named Donna listening to this. We're not beating up on you.
We didn't call you Karen. That's even
Yeah,
worse, because that's been overused the last couple years.
That's
right?
true.
We won't pick on Karens anymore. Now, Donna, it's your turn. This is the year of Donna.
I guess I choose the name because I don't have any clients named Donna, so they just nobody's gonna be like mad or anything.
I do, but I don't think my Donna clients are going to be listening to my show. And even if they do, they'll laugh, because most of my clients have a good sense of humor. They know I do too. So that's a great closing message, though. It's so true. Everybody thinks money's so logical, but it's not really. Every choice you make with your money is, if you're depressed and sad and you have a shopping addiction, you put that emotion, you spent the money, you got
Yep.
it on your credit card, you created that debt load, you created a situation that had nothing to do with money being logical. It's your
Yes.
lack of logic of thinking about it,
Totally.
right? People just
Yeah.
impulse buy, buyer's remorse, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just it happens all the time. I've been there. I'm not here. Anybody listening, watching, I'm not here to judge any of you because I've been to the valley of despair. I've been to the highest mountain when it comes to money. I've been to back to the valley of despair, up and down. And the difference is once you control your thought process, no matter when you hit the wall financially, because it does happen,
Oh yeah.
you're still going to be able to control your emotional state of mind and go, you know what? That's now, this is temporary. I'm going to get over this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can't do it on your own. Hey, Lisa, I'm kind of stuck. Can you help me out? Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So that's fantastic. So our time's almost up. And I want to
Sure.
respect our listeners and your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I always say there's probably two places. The first and primary place is our website. It's got some resources on there, some downloads that you can have, full transparency. It does ask for your email address. You get added to our biweekly newsletter, which I think is extremely valuable. It's all educational. But if you don't like it, just unsubscribe. It won't hurt my feelings. I won't come after you. It's okay. But if you want that resource, you can do that. And there's just more information about us. We put a lot of videos and stuff up there. But if you just kind of want, if anybody kind of can tell, I talk about finance a lot different than a lot of people do, and you do too. And we were talking about this beforehand. It's a very unique that we talk about it like this. Most people do not in the financial world. And so, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So you can always come see what's going on LinkedIn. And I tend to post in that way as well. So if you just want some extra inspiration during the day, I try to go that direction.
Yeah, it's one thing I got to engage more with, but I'm hiring some people to help me out more with social media because a lot of the social media that I do now today is done by me, right? Even the little 1 minute blurbs on my podcast, I get one of them done by the production company. Everything else I do is me. Well, the problem is it gets overwhelming. So, I need to get it. I get told by the social media people I'm talking with right now, you need to engage in LinkedIn. These algorithms, if you don't spend time commenting and if you just go post, you're not going to get nowhere. And
Yeah.
I looked at your LinkedIn yesterday. You've got quite a few followers. So obviously it's working out for you, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. I'll use
Yeah.
you as a role model.
Thank you.
Right.
I can always spend more time, but we're just trying to serve our clients most of the time. So if we get there,
Yeah.
we get there.
Well, and then in your evenings, you only want to do so much, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Supposed to
no,
be for
no,
you and
and
your family.
well, yeah, no insult to those that are, addicted to social media. I go on and post, and I don't scroll endlessly. I leave. I may go on to YouTube and watch AGT reruns of or America's Got it,
Yeah.
or American Idol. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That to me, I don't mind getting down in the rabbit hole, but
Oh no, it's always awesome.
listening to people complain about life is just not my dealio.
No, I'm the same way. I'm totally the same way.
That's why X, or now what used to be called Twitter, I stay away from that stuff.
Yes.
But
Oh my gosh, yes.
yes, there's just
Crazy.
too many angry people. So, any last closing comments before we wrap up?
No. It was one. Thank you for having me first and foremost. It's so nice to have a conversation with another financial professional that feels the same way I do, that really this money mindset goes along with planning. It's not, a lot of people in our industry, it's like financial, you've got to get a money coach to get you in the right mindset, and then you can work with the financial planner. But to me, they go hand in hand. If I don't know what makes you tick, if I don't ask you the tough questions and we get in the weeds a little bit, then I'm really not doing my job, and I'm not doing what you actually want. So
Well,
it's nice to have that. So thank you.
you're welcome. You become a better financial professional by getting into the weeds and
Hmm.
also sharing your weeds.
Yeah.
I share,
Yeah.
like
I do
I
too.
get what you're talking about. Here's my circumstance. or the night, or or I share client stories, obviously no names and no details, but enough to make it so that are you serious? You have somebody else that's been through this? Or you've been
Mhm.
through that, Dwight? Absolutely. What questions do you have for me? Would you like to know more? Would you like to know more
Yeah.
details or how it applies to you? Just being vulnerable, learning, becoming a better professional. It's
Yes.
work in project till the day I take my last breath. I want to be the best version of me for everybody in my life,
Me
not just my
too.
clients, right? So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a great ending. I love that.
I
That's so true.
so I appreciate you. So we're gonna wrap up the show. Thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Lisa. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.